So guys, before we preview opening round of the AFL 2025 season, I want to quickly remind you this may be your final chance to join our AFL tipping comp. If you take a look in the bottom corner, you can see to click the link down below, download the ESPN Footy Tips app and join our AFL tipping comp. The winner of the tipping comp will be getting a $100 gift voucher to the AFL store, so make sure to join up. There's about 15 of you at this stage, so you got a pretty good chance of winning if you do join up. The entries will close at the start of the Thursday night clash between Brisbane and Geelong, and while you are down in the description, make sure to join our AFL fantasy comp as well. But let's not waste any more of your time. Let's get into the preview for opening round. So guys, footy is finally back, the real stuff. Forget about the pracky games and all that sort of stuff, the injury-ravaged pracky games. We are into some real AFL football. And on Thursday, we have Brisbane up against Geelong. Now, there is a little bit of conjecture as to the fact of if this game will go ahead, but we will keep to the fact that the game is scheduled to go on Thursday night. Now, both the Lions and the Cats won only one of their pracky games and lost the other one. Now, it's a little bit hard to say with Brisbane because they had that tri-series pracky games. I wouldn't take too much concern into that one. However, against the Crows, it seemed like they had that game won, but kind of took the foot off the gas in the final 20 odd minutes and lost that game against the Crows. So I don't have too many concerns about the Lions at this stage. I will be very interested to see how the Lions line up forward. Ty Gallop did play in both the practice games for the Lions. There is Sam Day going to take that role, and Eric Hipwood did come back in that second practice game. So I'm expecting at this stage to go with Sam Day and Eric Hipwood, and then Logan Morris as the other. I think Ty Gallop will stay out of the team for the first couple of weeks, probably get some VFL games into the guy, and then maybe potentially come in after round 4 or 5. But at this stage, I think the Lions are going to line up pretty similar to the team that they had in the practice game against the Crows. Maybe a couple of players going out. Really excited to see Levi Ashcroft's first game as a Lion. And on Geelong's point of view, Bailey Smith should be back. I would be very surprised if he's out of opening round. And I'm very interested to see how the Geelong midfield lines up with Max Holmes, I'm expecting in there, and Sam de Koning as the new ruckman. So getting to my tip for this game, I am picking the Lions by 7 points over the Cats. Now on ESPN's tipping app, they are saying that 88% of people are going with the Lions. I think this is going to be a much closer contest than that. I give Geelong a real chance here. For the fact that the Lions are coming off a premiership, some premiership teams don't tend to have the greatest starts for the season. However, I think with Brisbane being at home, that's why I'm giving them the edge. However, my brother is going with Geelong. So that's his tip for this week. I'll be going through his tips throughout today's video as well. Now, if you guys don't know, every single Thursday night this year, we will be doing the live stream for the AFL. So we've done the live streams for the pracky games the last few weeks, but the first AFL official live stream will be Brisbane v Geelong this week. So get excited for that. Make sure to join us. If you don't want to listen to the 7 commentary, or if you don't have KO, make sure to join us. But before we go any further, a message from me. If you guys enjoy the content and you want to see more, then make sure to become a member on the channel today. For just $4 a month, you can get early access to video essays, access to live recording to the Boundary Riders podcast, along with exclusive stream perks and much more. And something that I'm super excited to introduce to channel membership this year is the members vote. Every week with the review, you can cast your vote to have your say on the Boundary Riders medal. So for all that and more, click the link down below, and for the added bonus of getting an extra inch onto your member, then do it now. But anyway, let's get back into the content. Next up, we have the Swans up against Hawthorn Friday night. Massive contest, of course. Hawthorn coming off a massive end to 2024. Hawthorn are set to be the real risers this year. In their preseason, though, they didn't win either of their practice matches. They came close against Geelong and then came close against the Bulldogs. However, they couldn't win either of those games. Now, you can't take match simulations and practice games into it too seriously, but they didn't really look as good as I thought they would be. Now, of course, I do think they did take the foot off the gas in that final game against the Bulldogs, because the Dogs obviously have an extra week of break, while Hawthorn go straight into the opening round. So I do think that Hawthorn have a bit of a chance here against the Swans. On the Sydney's point of view, I'm very interested to see how they line up forward. Tom McCartan didn't have a very good match simulation, but in his Community Series game against the Gold Coast, kicked 4 goals. It does seem now that the Swans are persisting with Tom McCartan up forward. I'm still 50-50 on it. The one thing that I will say is, though, he is such a battler, he's such a competitor, he won't let the ball be marked by a defender easily, which is probably Logan McDonald's weakness, and even Hayden McLean to an extent. McCartan will compete to the end, but those two may just take a step back every 2 or 3 contests. So that's why I'm thinking that Tom McCartan could be a great move up forward. Had a good game against the Gold Coast, so hopefully he can continue that form for Swans fans and for for me as well. But unfortunately, the Errol Goulden injury fractured his ankle. I would be very surprised if he plays the first half of the season at all. Really disappointing for the Swans. But I think Angus Sheldrick takes over in the midfield. I think maybe they do some shuffling of the few players. Justin McInerney gets more of a role on the wing. And I think the Swans will be able to cover Goulden okay. Obviously, you can't cover him fully, but I do think there is some cover there for the Swans. I will be going with Sydney, the fact that it is at the SCG, and the fact that the Swans have shown some good signs in this off-season. The Swans did rest quite a few players for their game against the Gold Coast, so I do think they'll have some prime players coming back. You got Heaney, Chad Warner, Brodie Grundy's hopefully going to play. So I do think the Swans are bringing back some great players. And I think that Hawthorn will get close, but I think the Swans will win in the end. Now, my brother has also tipped the Sydney Swans. Moving into Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, it is the Gold Coast up against Essendon. I have gone the Gold Coast Suns. They showed good signs in their first pracky game. Their second one, not so much. I think they should have done a lot better against Sydney. They had a full-strength side. Sydney had a lot of players out, and the Gold Coast didn't play the greatest. I think they could have done a whole lot more. But in their first match simulation, they showed some really good signs in the Tri-Series game. They did play a full-strength team in most of both games that they played. But I was really impressed by players like Jed Walter and Mac Andrew. Hopefully Mac is there for their game against the Bombers. However, speaking of Essendon, they have been brilliant so far in the two games that they played. They won very well against the Bulldogs, and then against Geelong, they backed that up brilliantly. They won both their games pretty convincingly in the end, and despite a lot of talk, including myself, saying that they're going to have a pretty tough year, the Bombers, they've had a pretty healthy list, and the Bombers could do something this game. The main reason why I'm tipping the Gold Coast is the fact that it's up there. If Essendon can continue their form they've had in this pre-season, then by all means, they have a chance here. Kind of lucky how opening round has ended up. The fact that most games, I think, are 50-50. So I think the Gold Coast could have a bit of a challenge against the Bombers here. Hopefully Essendon haven't just teased us with their great form so far, because if they just come out and play very disappointing against the Gold Coast, then all their pre-season form meant nothing. Now, my brother has also gone the Gold Coast Suns as well. And finally, we do get to the GWS v Collingwood game. Collingwood's actually the only team who's returned for opening round. Collingwood have had a pretty good pre-season, not so many injuries. Dacos was one concern earlier, but he's been brilliant in the two pracky games. So Nick Dacos is fine. He's going to have a massive year. The Giants did have Tom Green go down, which is really disappointing. And Jake Stringer, still a bit of an uncertainty if he plays in opening round for the Giants. The Giants have been really disappointing in the preseason. They got smashed by Sydney, and then they got beaten pretty convincingly in their second game. The Giants, still a bit of a question mark for me. I don't know where they're going to really go in the first couple of games of the season. I think they've got a list that could compete with anyone this year. I think they can have a real run at finals and potentially get to their second grand final, but if they take into account too much of the final series exit last year, they could have a really down year, the Giants. I really hope that these practice games mean nothing and they have a really good first game against Collingwood. They won the opening round last year, so hopefully they can do that again. However, on Collingwood's point of view, I think they've had a longer pre-season. They've got a pretty healthy list. I know that the goalie's probably going to be out, but other than that, they've got a pretty healthy list to pick from. I think the recruitments of Houston, Perryman, and Membry all look good to go for the Pies. So that's why I'm picking them. I think they're in for a massive year. I picked them to be a real riser this year to jump back into the top four. I think I've got them in the top two. So I think Collingwood are going to be real risers this year. But guys, before we end the tips, we have to bring a new part of the tipping episodes. We did this back when the channel came to the light a couple of years ago in the 2023 season. We had what was called the certainty pick. We are bringing that back in a new way. So for the first couple of rounds of the season, the way the certainty pick will go is for opening round and round one, the team that we have to pick for a certainty pick has to have finished lower than their opponent. So both of our certainty picks for this week will be going to Collingwood. From round two onwards, we can't pick the same team for a certainty pick. However, for the first couple of rounds, because it's a little bit more difficult with lesser games, we're going to keep that as we can both pick the same, me and my brother. So both of us have put the certainty pick on opening round to Collingwood because they finished lower than the Giants at the end of the 2024 season. However, from round two onwards, the way the certainty pick will go is the team that's selected for a certainty pick has to have lost their previous game. So, I mean, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I feel like most of you guys can get that. However, what is the punishment for getting a certainty pick wrong? Well, the first time we did it, we made a bunch of different challenges and we didn't really keep up with it. what we're doing this time is we're going to make it pretty simple for everyone to understand. If we get a certainty pick wrong, it will be tallied up. At the end of the season, the amount of wrong certainty picks will equate to the amount of chilies we have to eat in the BR Awards live stream at the end of the season. So you guys know what the BR Awards is. We're basically having an awards night where we do the Boundary Riders medal because of the review. We do the 3, 2, 1 votes. We do a live countdown of that. We also give away the Goal of the Year award for the channel, the Mark of the Year, and we'll probably be doing a couple of other awards this year as well. So that's basically how it's going to roll, and that's what we're going to be doing throughout the live stream. So, I mean, it could be up to, I think there's 26 weeks of football this year. So hopefully we don't have to do 26 of them because I think one of us will die. That's basically how it's going to go. That's the punishment, and we'll be having a certainty pick for the tips every single week. So to quickly recap the tips for opening round, my tips are Brisbane to beat Geelong, Sydney to beat Hawthorn, Gold Coast to beat Essendon, and Collingwood to beat the Giants. And my brother's tips for opening round are Geelong to beat the Lions, Sydney to beat Hawthorn, Gold Coast to beat Essendon, and Collingwood to beat the Giants. But guys, that is our tips for opening round. Get excited, the season has begun. But guys, make sure to let us know down below your tips going into opening round. Make sure to like and subscribe because the content is flowing this year. And also, if you missed it, the first video essay of the season has dropped about Collingwood. We'll leave a card in the top corner of this video. But again, guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you all next week.